Yeah, David Dread of Steel Pulse, and I'm saying hail to Lion Voice because it's time that the lion have its voice, have its own story. Says I'm stepping out here. Hear me now. Yeah, the lion's voice. Raw.
I'm Nana Farika. The time has come for the lioness to tell her story from her viewpoint and tell the world who Queen Omega is. This is the lion's voice.
But dwarfing even man's material achievements in the 20th century has been the emergence of people all over the world into freedom and independence. Today, for the first time, men everywhere to whom freedom and independence were, but a short time ago, only words, and for whom economic and political self-determination were no more than far distant goals, have achieved the status of free men and are directing their efforts and energies to their own advancement. Now tell me, doesn't this apply to the Sahel states?
The year is 1892, and the land of Ethiopia has been experiencing 4 years of terrible famine and drought. They call it the Kikuken, or the evil days. At least 1/3 of the human population and 90% of the cattle have died. The hyenas have feasted on so many carcasses that they have become overweight and barely able to move. Just when the people could take no more of the evil days, a woman named Wasiro Yeshimabet is giving birth in a place called Erjersa Gora. This is her 9th attempt to bring forth new life. Her previous 8 attempts only resulted in death. Will this child live? Thankfully, a healthy baby boy is born. His first cries are drowned by thunder and lightning flashes across the night sky. The heavens open up and torrential rain starts to fall. Ethiopia's drought is over, and the baby boy is given the name TAFARI, meaning one to be feared or respected. LIDJ's father, Ras Mokennen, is a very important man in 1892 Ethiopia. Although he is overjoyed at the birth of his newborn son, he cannot spend much time with him. Ras Mokennen is the governor of Harar and must get back to the famous walled city to deal with its affairs. Furthermore, he is the foreign minister of Ethiopia, and having traveled to different places in Europe, he is very aware of the material and military advances they have made and the looming threats they pose to his country. Ras Mokennen knows that the majority of Ethiopians have no idea what is coming, and that he has to work that much harder to secure the realm. LIDJ would grow up to become the legendary emperor, Haile Selassie I. To understand his journey, we must first understand the Ethiopia that he was inheriting, and what it was like when he was born in 1892. Get your copy of Kwesi Bansu's book, Haile Selassie I, Ethiopia, Volume 1, The Rise of the Priestly Warrior Kings, and increase your knowledge about the history, politics, and culture of Ethiopia in 1892, and how it connects to the rest of African and world history at the time. Haile Selassie I, Ethiopia, Volume 1 is available for purchase at www.bookmanexpress.pub. Please visit for more information.
So I want the item, stay tuned. But before we go into looking at the videos from these African content creators to hear about the stories, the soldier refusing the bribe and the Ghana opening their borders, we're going to watch 2 videos on those 2 specific things. Before we do that, I want to set the tone. We're going to read a speech of His Imperial Majesty to the Accra conference, and we're going to see the prophetic. This could have been written yesterday. This could have been uttered yesterday, and we're going to see the timeless nature. And the item will get to understand why it is on this platform that we are pushing the teaching of His Majesty. Haile Selassie have to be the head of this movement. There are so many opinions out there. People have their different doctrine. I don't piece with His Majesty word sound. I take the teaching fully. So that is what you can expect on this platform. We can reason around the parameters and this and that, and come to a greater understanding, because again, I always say His Majesty speak very general. And he enlightens a lot of things. You know, His Majesty awarded J.A. Rogers. So he might not talk about the African origin of the Hebrew or the Sumerians, but he, in his action, do things to let you know. I know them thing that far right sons and daughters. When I award the Jamaican historian J.A. Rogers, who are right about these things within that timing, may I show you, say, me up to date. You know what I mean? But remember, he is the father of the whole world. The whole earth, he look at his children. And so, you know what I mean? Some of us are puzzled by how he interact with the Europeans, and, you know, causing even some of us to say that he is a sellout. But you have to remember, when a father is dealing with their children, the compassion that they have is going to be enormous. And you're not going to understand it if you're not the parent of those children. We don't look at Europeans them way they Ethiopians look at themselves as fathers and mothers of whole creation. So them treat the European in a particular way, and we just have to get used to it and know that that is how His Majesty he's looking at the whole picture, bringing the whole world into oneness. And you know what I mean, that is a, you know, sometimes it goes beyond our individual pay grade. We need to just focus on getting our communities together so we can fit into the whole. And we're going to find out today that the intent of His Majesty for Africa's unity is not just for Africa's sake, but to preserve the whole earth. I talk about World War III here. His Majesty calls it the third Holocaust. How Africa's rising is to really help to prevent this third Holocaust. Because guess what? When the world see Africa united, the developments, Zion on earth manifesting, African culture. Remember, what culture runs the world? Black culture runs the world. So the young people will refuse, just like how you have the young people refusing to take bribes in Burkina Faso. I mean, we're seeing it even in Ukraine. You have soldiers, young people who are refusing to fight the war. They're deserting in massive numbers, never before seen. Some people saying up to 200,000, you know, young people have deserted, or young men. Most of them young men have deserted the battlefield because they're saying, we're not dying for these wars. We don't believe in these wars. And this is the hope for humanity, is the young people. And African culture, we got to turn the world away from war as a means to settle political disputes. The European, they are full 100 into plunging the earth into darkness. The European powers, the colonial powers led by G7, they are full speed into this. The global south is trying to navigate away from war because we have not tasted the fruits of the development that the developed nations have had. We just want to get there. So Africa's uprising, again, is not just for Africa, and His Majesty says this in 1958, shortly after the independence of Ghana. So let's go to this speech to frame this whole reasoning, and then we'll come forward into the African vloggers and see how Africa independent media is shaping the narratives, and also ask the question to the Lion Pride, is the tide turning? All right, so this is His Majesty's speech to the Accra conference. All right, we're going to read from His Majesty's speech to the Accra conference. This speech took place shortly after the independence of Ghana, April 15th, 1958. This was one of the seminal gatherings. His Majesty didn't attend in person. He sent his son to deliver the remarks. But these are very prophetic and profound remarks, and we need to know this one on the table of our hearts. So you're going to hear this speech a lot on this platform, particularly this year. So get used to it. I'm going to read from the section that says on the side of peace. This is page 190 from the selected speeches. Glory to word, sound and power, the most high, Kadama Haile Selassie the first. So he says, on the side of peace. However, as man's capacity to improve his own lot has grown, so has his power to spread havoc and destruction correspondingly increased. The independent African states must assure that the growing weight of Africa is enlisted on the side of peace and justice to the end of avoiding a third Holocaust, which could well engulf the entire world and result in the destruction of mankind. So, for those who interpret his Majesty Africa Armageddon as past, as we don't have to worry about what's happening in the rest of the world and we have no part to play. Yes, this speech predates that utterance, but again, I've done a deep dive into the context of those remarks, and it was talking about what Africa particularly had been through and not referring to the rest of the world. So you see, his mind was very concerned with World War III and this third Holocaust, which is unfolding. And he says that Africa must ensure that the growing weight is enlisted on the side of peace and justice. So what you see happening now is really for us to leverage what's happening in the Sahel states, with Ghana, Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire, all of this uprising, Chad, we're going to talk about them all this year. It's to really unify and then use Africa's example to show mankind the path to peace, and that war is a waste of time because the European-led global order is heading the world to destruction, and I think that's an observable fact at this point. All right, let's continue. It says, but dwarfing even man's material achievements in the 20th century has been the emergence of people all over the world into freedom and independence. Today, for the first time, men everywhere to whom freedom and independence were, but a short time ago, only words, and for whom economic and political self-determination were no more than far distant goals, have achieved the status of free men and are directing their efforts and energies to their own advancement. Now tell me, doesn't this apply to the Sahel states, to the states that are telling the colonial armies to go home? We want control over our resources. This is happening. So the tide that swept Africa was delayed but could not be prevented. It couldn't be held back. And now it has burst through its bank and the tide is sweeping. So this is the part that every Rastafari to the four corners of the earth should know from this speech. This is the prophecy and why we proudly call His Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie the First, the Father of Africa. He says, we are particularly gratified and proud that this development have been so marked and widespread on the great continent of Africa. Listen to this. Africa will no longer be the unknown continent, for its human and material resources are beyond measure, and this great continent now stands on the verge of an economic, political, and cultural development which, when realized, will be without parallel in history. Okay, so
well, great is the Almighty, and greatly to be praised in the city of Haile Selassie the First, the mountain of His holiness.
Yeah, from Cape to Cairo, from Timbuktu to the Nile, the whole entire continent.
Beautiful for situation, the joy of the whole earth is Mount Zion, from Accra to Addis Ababa.
Yes, it's a beautiful continent, better control, Mama Africa.
Very beautiful.
From Cape to Cairo, from Timbuktu to the Nile.
I hear you call Mama Africa. Been so long since I see Mama. Father of Africa set the law. The lion come and dismantle Babylon flaw. We gonna use solar energy, use sanitation to build the ecology. We utilizing green technology. We hailing Haile Selassie first without apology. And then we build the youth them economy. We dismantle Babylon monopoly. We teach the youth them how to live properly. Tell them make sure them got the title for them property.
Yes, this beautiful continent that I'm gonna show Mama Africa. From Cape to Cairo, from Timbuktu to the Nile.